Today I would like to invite you to listen to the Dhammapada of the Buddha Shakyamuni, the 106th verse from the Buddhist scriptures on the YouTube channel TN Thai in the USA. Though month after month with 1,000, one should make an offering for 100 years, yet, if, only for a moment, one should honors a saint who has perfected himself, that honors is, indeed, better than a century of sacrifice. This verse illuminates the profound significance of recognizing and honoring those who have attained mastery over themselves, whose wisdom, virtue, and insight embody the highest Dharma. The Buddha teaches that external acts of generosity, while meritorious, cannot compare to the benefit and depth of honoring one who has perfected the mind. To offer material wealth, even continuously over years, is limited in effect and bound by impermanence, whereas honoring a perfected being cultivates the mind, inspires practice, and awakens understanding. A single moment of sincere reverence and respect toward one who embodies the Dharma surpasses centuries of ritual offerings because it awakens wisdom, strengthens virtue, and fosters insight that directly leads to liberation. The teaching draws our attention to the essence of spiritual life, the transformation of the mind through recognition of wisdom and virtue, rather than accumulation of wealth or participation in ritual alone. The story related to this verse in the Dhammapada illustrates its profound truth. A wealthy merchant, known for his generosity, dedicated much of his life to making offerings, supporting temples, and performing religious ceremonies. Yet despite his continuous acts of charity, he felt a subtle emptiness and restlessness within. Upon encountering a fully realized arahant, he paused to observe the serenity, wisdom, and compassion emanating from this enlightened being. In that single moment of sincere respect and attention, he experienced a shift in his understanding and heart. He realized that honoring one perfected in wisdom and virtue imparted clarity, inspiration, and insight far beyond the merit of countless offerings. The arahant's presence served as a living embodiment of the Dharma, a mirror reflecting the path of ethical conduct, mindfulness, and insight. The merchant's mind, previously restless and distracted by attachment to material giving, found a deeper resonance and calm in the act of honoring the perfected being. This story demonstrates that the highest benefit in spiritual practice is derived not from quantity of offerings but from the depth of attention, respect, and understanding directed toward those who exemplify the Dharma. This verse further teaches that the recognition of the perfected one transforms both the giver and the mind of the observer. Offering to a saint is an act of mindfulness and devotion that cultivates humility, clarity, and receptivity. The mind, focused on the virtues and insight of the perfected one, naturally cultivates ethical conduct, restraint, and reflection. Unlike material offerings, which may cultivate attachment to reward, status, or merit, honoring the fully realized awakens wisdom and inspires the observer to follow the path of self-discipline, compassion, and insight. The Buddha repeatedly emphasizes that the mind is the source of liberation. When the mind is attentive, respectful, and receptive to wisdom, it gains the seeds of insight that lead directly to awakening. A moment spent in honoring one perfected in Dharma awakens understanding, encourages ethical living, and strengthens commitment to practice in a way that hundreds of years of external giving cannot achieve. The 106th verse also highlights the impermanence and limitations of material giving. Even sustained offerings over long periods are bound by conditions: the giver's attachment, the fleeting nature of wealth, and the inevitable decay of all worldly possessions. By contrast, the merit and transformation generated from honoring a perfected being are not confined by material limitations. The wisdom, calm, and inspiration received influence the mind directly, fostering understanding, ethical refinement, and insight into the nature of reality. The story of the merchant illustrates that when the mind shifts from attachment to material giving, to awareness of and respect for true wisdom, it experiences a depth of transformation and clarity previously inaccessible. This teaching reminds practitioners to prioritize internal cultivation, ethical reflection, and reverence for those embodying the Dharma over purely external acts. Furthermore, the verse encourages mindfulness, sincerity, and intentionality in spiritual practice. A single, conscious moment of honoring a perfected one, free from distraction or self-interest, carries profound benefit. The mind, fully present, attentive, and reverent, absorbs the wisdom and virtue of the saint, gaining insight and inspiration. The Buddha teaches that it is not the number or magnitude of offerings that matters, but the quality of attention, the depth of understanding, and the sincerity of devotion. Stories in the Dhammapada illustrate that disciples who approach the perfected one with humility, mindfulness, and reverence experience awakening, ethical refinement, and inner calm, demonstrating that one moment of true recognition surpasses centuries of external ritual in cultivating spiritual growth. Finally, the 106th verse reminds us of the value of learning from and respecting those who have perfected themselves. The fully realized serve as guides, living embodiments of ethical conduct, mindfulness, and wisdom. By observing, respecting, and learning from them, one cultivates the qualities necessary for self-discipline, insight, and liberation. The story of the merchant emphasizes that the highest benefit in spiritual life arises from the recognition and honor of those who embody the Dharma. Through this practice, the mind is transformed, ethical conduct strengthened, and insight deepened. External offerings, while virtuous, pale in comparison to the transformative effect of honoring the perfected. The Buddha teaches that this recognition fosters lasting understanding, ethical living, and progress on the path toward liberation, demonstrating the supreme merit of honoring one perfected in wisdom and virtue. The 106th verse teaches us that the quality of attention and intention surpasses the quantity of material offerings or ritual practices. A single moment of sincere reverence for one who has perfected themselves carries profound merit because it awakens the mind to the Dharma, inspires ethical conduct, and cultivates insight. In contrast, repeated acts of material giving, if performed mechanically or without awareness, may accumulate merit externally but cannot penetrate the mind or awaken wisdom. The Buddha emphasizes that the mind is the source of all wholesome or unwholesome results, and the transformation of the mind is the supreme goal of spiritual practice. Stories from the Dhammapada illustrate disciples who, upon encountering a fully realized arahant, experienced a profound shift of perception, recognizing impermanence, non-attachment, and the value of ethical living. This demonstrates that the mere presence of a perfected being, when met with sincere attention and respect, transmits insight, inspires practice, and cultivates the seeds of awakening within the observer. The verse teaches that honoring a saint is not an external or superficial act. It is a deep, mindful engagement that nurtures understanding, humility, and devotion. Moreover, this teaching encourages the cultivation of humility and discernment. When the mind is directed toward one who embodies the Dharma, it learns to recognize the qualities of wisdom, patience, and ethical conduct that are the foundation of spiritual progress. The story of the merchant shows that even someone who is materially wealthy and generous can remain restless and unsatisfied until they recognize the value of honoring the truly perfected. Humility allows the mind to be receptive to guidance, to observe and emulate the qualities of the saint, and to internalize the ethical and spiritual principles exemplified in their life. Discernment ensures that attention and reverence are directed toward those who genuinely embody virtue, mindfulness, and insight, rather than toward superficial appearances or social prestige. The Buddha teaches that the act of honoring, when guided by mindfulness, humility, and discernment, becomes a powerful vehicle for ethical and spiritual cultivation. The verse also emphasizes the transformative effect of intention. When the mind is fully present, attentive, and sincere in honoring a perfected one, the quality of consciousness itself is elevated. This elevated state of mind strengthens mindfulness, fosters ethical action, and awakens insight into the nature of reality. The story of the merchant illustrates that the recognition of wisdom and virtue inspires reflection on the impermanent, conditioned, and interdependent nature of existence. One moment of sincere attention can lead to a profound shift in understanding, transforming habitual tendencies of attachment, aversion, and delusion into clarity, equanimity, and compassion. The Buddha teaches that this transformation, arising from a single moment of mindfulness and reverence, is far superior to centuries of ritual offerings conducted without awareness, illustrating the primacy of internal cultivation over external accumulation. Furthermore, the 106th verse underscores the importance of integrating learning from perfected beings into daily life. Observing their conduct, speech, and mind inspires ethical living, cultivates patience, and strengthens resolve to practice mindfulness and self-restraint. Stories in the Dhammapada recount disciples who, inspired by the presence and example of arahants, undertook rigorous practice, gradually overcoming anger, desire, and delusion. The transformation is not immediate, but develops through sustained reflection, ethical conduct, and mindful observation. By honoring those who have perfected themselves, the practitioner gains guidance and encouragement to persist in ethical and meditative practice. The mind, inspired and attentive, naturally aligns with the Dharma, reinforcing restraint, compassion, and wisdom. This teaching demonstrates that the highest merit arises from cultivating the mind through attention, reverence, and learning from those who embody the path. Finally, the verse reminds us that honoring the perfected fosters enduring merit because it directly benefits the mind. External offerings are subject to impermanence, decay, and dependence on circumstance. Material wealth may diminish, rituals may fade, and praise may be forgotten, yet the transformation of the mind persists. The story of the merchant shows that one moment of sincere reverence for a fully realized being generated insight, calm, and understanding that endured long after the initial encounter. The Buddha teaches that the supreme benefit of spiritual practice is internal, the cultivation of ethical conduct, mindfulness, and wisdom. By honoring one perfected in Dharma, the mind receives guidance, inspiration, and the seeds of awakening, producing merit that is profound, lasting, and transformative. This understanding elevates the mind beyond attachment to ritual or material accumulation, emphasizing the centrality of inner cultivation and recognition of the Dharma. The 106th verse further instructs us in the importance of consistency and sincerity in mindfulness and ethical practice. While material offerings and rituals can accumulate merit externally, they are most beneficial when accompanied by awareness, intention, and understanding. Honoring a saint is not only an act of devotion, but a cultivation of the mind that aligns with wisdom, restraint, and insight. When the mind is fully present in such moments, it absorbs the ethical and spiritual qualities exemplified by the perfected one, fostering reflection, restraint, and virtuous conduct. The story of the merchant demonstrates that the transformation of the mind, even in a single moment of sincere attention to a saint, surpasses the accumulated merit of long-standing material offerings. This demonstrates the primacy of inner cultivation over external performance, highlighting the importance of mindfulness, ethical reflection, and the guidance of those who embody the Dharma. Moreover, the verse teaches that honor and respect for those perfected in the Dharma cultivate humility and openness. When one encounters a saint, the mind becomes receptive to guidance, ethical example, and the inspiration necessary for spiritual growth. Humility softens the ego, allowing the mind to observe without attachment or aversion, to learn without pride or distraction, and to emulate the ethical and spiritual qualities of the perfected being. Stories in the Dhammapada recount disciples who, through reverence and attention to fully realized beings, cultivated patience, clarity, and insight. The Buddha emphasizes that this practice is transformative because it shapes the mind directly, fostering qualities that lead to self-mastery, ethical conduct, and liberation. The honor paid to a saint is thus a bridge between admiration and internal cultivation, awakening the mind to the path of wisdom and virtue. The 106th verse also illuminates the importance of intention and depth of awareness in practice. A single, intentional moment of reverence carries profound merit because the mind is engaged, attentive, and receptive to the Dharma. The story of the merchant illustrates that even one moment of awareness directed toward a perfected being can produce understanding, ethical refinement, and insight far beyond the accumulation of external offerings. The Buddha teaches that spiritual cultivation is measured by the transformation of the mind, the awakening of insight, and the alignment with ethical conduct. Therefore, honoring a saint with sincerity and mindful attention produces a benefit that is durable, profound, and directly conducive to liberation. This insight directs practitioners to cultivate inner awareness, sincerity, and intention as the foundation of all meritorious and ethical practice. Furthermore, the verse encourages reflection on impermanence and the limits of external merit. Offerings, rituals, and material generosity, while virtuous, are bound by time, circumstance, and attachment. Without mindfulness and awareness, their benefit is limited. In contrast, honoring a perfected being cultivates the mind, fostering clarity, ethical conduct, and insight that endure beyond the ephemeral nature of material or ritual offerings. The story of the merchant demonstrates that true transformation arises not from the accumulation of wealth or performance of external acts, but from attention, reverence, and internal cultivation. This understanding aligns the practitioner with the highest purpose of Dharma practice, emphasizing the centrality of mind, ethical conduct, and insight over external performance. Finally, the 106th verse reminds us that honoring a saint fosters enduring spiritual benefit for oneself and others. By cultivating reverence, mindfulness, and attention to wisdom, the practitioner nurtures clarity, ethical conduct, and insight, creating conditions for liberation. The story of the merchant illustrates that even one moment of sincere recognition of a perfected being produces understanding, calm, and inspiration that far exceed the merit of centuries of ritual offerings. The Buddha teaches that this practice, rooted in awareness, humility, and ethical reflection, strengthens the mind, aligns one with the Dharma, and cultivates the seeds of awakening. Honoring those perfected in Dharma is therefore a profound practice, guiding the mind toward wisdom, ethical refinement, and liberation. May we reflect on the 106th verse in our daily life, honoring and learning from those perfected in the Dharma. One moment of sincere attention and reverence transforms the mind, cultivates insight, and surpasses centuries of material offering. Thank you for watching my video. Namo Amitabha. I wish to bring this merit towards all disciples and sentient beings, all of whom will attain Buddhahood. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate your time.